Hi, everyone. We hope you're doing well. I'm with our re-education counselors, Yuna and Christine from Nova, HAECC, and CVCEC. And we wanted to reach out to everyone. We hope you're doing well. And we wanted to maybe give you some strategies to go during this stressful time. We know it's not easy for everyone. And we felt this was maybe a good opportunity to reach out and maybe give some best strategies. So thank you, ladies, for being with me today. And I know our students are really going to appreciate some of the coping mechanisms and things that they can do during this stressful time.
First of all, that we're all experiencing a little bit more anxiety in our lives. And I just wanted to acknowledge that right off the bat, that that's normal. And recognize and let you guys know that I'm experiencing more anxiety right now. This, like Chuck said, this is a pandemic. I've never lived through one before. None of us in our generation has. So I just wanted to relay that to you, that it is normal to be feeling heightened anxiety at this time. Some of the things that I'm doing to help combat my own anxiety is getting into a routine. Routines are proven to really help us in times of anxiety, stress, even depression. So when I talk about a routine, I'm not talking about totally structured, but I do have the same bedtime every night. And I try to get up at the same time every morning. And then I try to eat healthy, eat 3 square meals a day. And I get up every morning. I always shower, put on fresh clothes. That's really important too. That helps boost our mood. And then before I turn on the news, because we're being bombarded right now, I go to my puzzle. Yes, I'm a big nerd. I'm into puzzles. And I will sit there, drink my tea, and really ground myself for the day before we are started to be bombarded with all the news and incoming information.
Thank you for that, Una. I'm Christine. I'm a counselor in re-education at Nova Career Center. And I wanted to start today by talking to you about some signs that you might be experiencing at really an increase in your stress level. So there's some things that are pretty typical when that happens. First of all, with regards to sleep, you might find that you're sleeping way more than usual, like 12 hours or even more for some people. Or you could be at the other extreme. You might find it really hard to fall asleep and feel like you're not getting nearly as good a quality sleep or as much sleep as usual.
Okay.
Another sign of increased stress is eating patterns. So again, it could be either extreme. You might find that you have no appetite and it's really hard to get yourself to eat anything. Or I think what's the case for a lot of people is that they find that they're eating a lot of junk food or just eating a lot more than they would typically eat. Another sign of increased stress is more fear or worry about your own health conditions or your own safety or that of your loved ones, which I think is pretty common nowadays with the pandemic. Some other signs would be a difficulty concentrating. So if you're having a hard time focusing and concentrating, that's pretty typical when we're feeling increased stress. You might also notice that you're feeling more sad than usual. Or for some people, instead of sadness, it tends to be that they're more irritable than usual. So if you find yourself flying off the handle and just being generally more grouchy, that can also be a sign of increased stress. And one of the other signs is that your alcohol or drug consumption has increased lately in an effort to try and cope with the stress.
It is a challenging time. So, and are there any other type of strategies to deal with stress that can really help get your mind in the right place, that you feel better about yourself? Because sometimes you might be alone, or you have a family setting, or like I said, the context of what's happening at home can be very different.
Absolutely. So one of the things that can really help you is limiting your exposure to the media. And I know that is a great challenge right now because we are being bombarded with news 24/7, updates that are forever changing. Do this, don't do that, and it can be extremely stressful. Now, I'm not saying don't watch the news. We obviously have to know what to do to protect ourselves and protect our loved ones. However, I'm talking about just limiting our exposure. If you're already feeling more stress and you're putting on the TV 24/7 and getting more stress coming in at you, that's just going to naturally heighten your stress levels. So I just watch it twice a day, and I watch credible sources. So I watch our premier and our prime minister when they're talking. I also wanted to acknowledge that this is a time where we get a lot of our news from other sources like social media. And that might not be the best choice right now, because you can sit and scroll through something like Instagram or Facebook for all day, honestly. And that can really heighten our stress. There's a lot of misinformation out there as well. So you just want to keep informed, but recognize that too much is too much.
Thank you very much. That's great. And is there anything else, Christine, that you could maybe elaborate on for our students out there and their families, as some of them are supporting one another in this very difficult time?
Absolutely. I think Una and I have a couple more tips for you guys. One of them is about one of the basics that is more important now than ever, which is exercise. It's really important to get some daily exercise. That can be going out for a run or a walk or a bike ride if you want to do that. If you're more comfortable staying home, or if you'd like to do both, there's also really great cardio workouts on YouTube, and they're free. So I would encourage you guys to check them out. Full disclosure, I'm not a huge fan of exercise, but I've been forcing myself. Let me say that again. It started as forcing myself to do a half hour of cardio a day, and I didn't particularly enjoy it, but I stuck with it because I think it's important. And now I'm definitely seeing the benefits, and I'm definitely enjoying it. So I would encourage you to do that. And some of the YouTube exercises can be done in a very small space. So even if you're in a small apartment, if you just move the coffee table a little bit, you don't need a lot of space, and you also don't need a lot of coordination. I'm going to encourage you guys to exercise at least a half hour a day.
Yeah, I can certainly attest to that. I get out. I have a dog. He has needs. So we get out for at least 30 minutes a day, and we walk in nature. And nature is a fantastic grounding tool. So getting outside, certainly if it's a sunny day, I encourage you to get out even more and get some vitamin D, which is not only a mood booster, but good for your health as well. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about, we touched on the healthy eating. And that's really important. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I haven't eaten a bag of Cheetos here or there.
Me too.
Right? Cheetos are awesome. But really, if we're talking about combating stress, we want to be eating a healthy, balanced diet. We don't want our blood sugars to go up too high, because then we're going to crash and feel even worse. And we don't want our blood sugars to be too low, because that can put our bodies into a stress response. So really recognizing that, trying to eat healthy, trying to eat regularly as well. And Christine mentioned earlier too about drugs and alcohol. Now, we might think in the short term, I mean, even our premier was joking about having a glass of wine. And we might be reaching for them in the short term, but studies have shown in the long term, they can actually do adverse effects on our bodies and heighten our anxiety. And that includes smoking pot. It can actually heighten your anxiety.
Some people are connected digitally, some people are connected physically. Like you said, I've got a lot of people in my house. I have 3 kids under 5, so there's a lot of energy going around. So I might not be doing the exercises, but it's running after them a little bit and ensuring that we can go outside. So I think maybe as we keep going on with some of these great strategies, is there any other type of things that you can say about the interaction with others, of how important to keep yourself connected but not worried with all the news that you've gone out? I think some of the things you said have helped. Are there any other ideas that maybe can help our students?
Well, I wanted to touch on, I mentioned it earlier, but I know a lot of people are having difficulty with sleep.
Mhm.
So there's some things we can do in terms of sleep hygiene, and that's just a fancy way of talking about principles that can help us to sleep better. So probably the most important one is getting up at the same time every day. So I know a lot of people during this pandemic have been going to bed later and later, it seems like, and getting up later and later. And if that's okay and if that works for you for now, I don't think there's a problem with that as long as you're getting your good sleep. But some people have to get up earlier to get up with the kids or to go to work. So if that's becoming a problem, falling asleep, the best thing you can do is to set your alarm to get up at the exact same time every day. Okay. So what that means is that in the short term, you might be more tired because if you're getting used to going to bed later and later and you're still trying to get up early, you're going to be a little bit tired, but eventually, and pretty soon usually, your body clock will reset. And if you're getting up at that same time every morning, you're going to start to fall asleep a lot sooner. Okay. Another thing about sleep hygiene is to make sure that you don't have bright lights when you're sleeping. I don't mean overhead lights, but even a digital clock can be too much light. And also, if you're stressed out about not being asleep, it might be a good idea to cover up the clock so you don't see what time it is and you're not getting the light. In studies, they've also found that you're best off not having any screen time for about a half an hour to an hour before bed. So that means not being in front of the computer or the TV or looking at your phone, because the light does affect your ability to fall asleep. So what I would suggest instead, and something that I do, is I read a book for half an hour to an hour before bed. You can do some other kind of relaxing activity that doesn't involve screen time. And if you're still finding it difficult to fall asleep, you can do some calm breathing exercises. So we're going to post a link on our Facebook page to 478 breathing. And that's
We'll,
just
we'll put that link in this video too, so that people can get it.
good. Okay, great. And that's just a method of calm breathing to help relax the body. Okay. Very easy to learn. The more you practice it, the better you'll get at it, like most things in life.
Yep.
Okay. The other thing that we're also going to post a link to is self-guided meditation. And this is just listening to somebody talking in a very slow and soothing and calming voice. And they're describing a scene that you're encouraged to imagine. And one of the ways that it works is that when your mind is occupied with visualizing something, it tends to not go off in other directions worrying about things. Okay, so those are two practices as well that are very easy to learn that can help you tremendously throughout the day and when you're trying to fall asleep at night.
Excellent. I think a healthy mind helps you get to a more positive attitude. And, when you're in a negative situation, as much positivity as you can keep getting into your soul and your body can only help balance things out one step at a time. Okay. And is there anything else, Una, that you'd want to add to as, we're given strategies of how to cope? And is there times where if you're having struggling coping, what do you do in that situation? Is there something that you can steer them to, maybe resources or something along those lines?
Yeah, well, you touched on it, Chuck. Keeping your mind stimulated is really important. So I'm not talking about, like I said before, scrolling through Instagram for hours, although I've been guilty of that. But challenging your mind. I mean, we're talking to students right now. Read some textbooks. Read for pleasure. This is a time where you can actually read for pleasure. Listening to podcasts. Watching videos, visiting museums. Like, there's so much out there that we can do that will help keep our minds busy. Puzzles. I know I mentioned puzzles. I finished mine this morning and I'm having a little bit of anxiety from that. I finished it. I'm going to have to get another one. Puzzles are great. They're an actual grounding technique and they can help quiet your mind as you're focusing on them. And and it's really important too to keep yourselves connected to others. I know that we're all self-isolating right now. So staying connected is a little bit more challenging and we have to get creative. But luckily we live in a time where technology is at our fingertips. Right now we're talking on Zoom. It's a fantastic tool. There is FaceTime for students out there and a variety of other ways to keep connected. We're social beings and it's really uh, important to keep connected for our mental health and our physical well-being too. Calling people on the phone, talking more on the phone, texting each other, checking in with everybody daily. It's really important. I have a standing Friday night Zoom chat with my girlfriends, and that has helped me personally so much through this trying time.
I don't want to ask too much. Is that one of those where Mr. Legault suggested also a glass of wine sometimes on those Friday evenings?
You know, who's to say? Everything in moderation, Chuck.
Excellent. And I think I don't know, we may be finishing up soon. So, and we talked about now all these great strategies. I think it's going to help people find some outlets of how they can help themselves. But if they need someone else to help them, if they're at a situation where maybe they're needing some other extra support, what would you guys suggest if they're facing that right now?
Yeah, that's a good point, Chuck. So these tips and strategies, we definitely encourage you to try making them a part of your daily life. But if you're really struggling right now and you feel like you need to speak to somebody for immediate support, again, we're going to post a link to several different resources. I'll mention some of them. You can call Tel-Aid at 514-935-1101 or 450-377-0600. And when you call, you'll be able to speak to a support worker who's been trained to deal with people who are having a hard time or might actually be in crisis. If you're having serious thoughts of self-harm, there's a Suicide Action Montreal call center, which is 1-866-277-3553. And again, they're trained to talk to people who are really having a hard time and might be having some self-harm ideas. The last one I'll mention, but like I said, we'll have a list of other ones on our links, is Kids Help Phone. So this is for young people from age 5 to 20. And the great thing about Kids Help Phone is you can either call them or you can text them. So if you want to have a bit more privacy and you're worried about someone in your home hearing you or overhearing you speaking, you can do it through texting. So you can go to kidshelpphone.ca and you'll have either option there, a call number or a texting.
Great, thank you, Christine. And before we leave you today, we don't want to leave you on such a heavy note. That's important information, but we wanted to talk about one last thing, and that is be kind to yourself at this time. Allow yourself, give yourself permission to feel joy and happiness. I encourage everybody to try to find laughter in every day. Be silly. Be silly and enjoy. You know, yes, these are very stressful times, but life is continuing. And it's really important to keep boosting our moods. So be silly. Find joy. One of the things that I would encourage you to do as well is to practice gratitude. And I'm not talking about a grandiose, I'm so grateful for all of this. Honestly, when I sat down with my tea this morning, I was grateful that I was drinking it at the exact right temperature, because how often does that happen? You know, so just little things throughout the day that keeps your mind focused on the positive things. It can really help combat any anxiety that we're all experiencing right now.
Well, I'm going to say it on behalf of our students. Thank you to both of you for doing this with me and reaching out to our students in our community to try and give support during this time, because your helpful hints and some of the strategies I think are going to help a lot of people. So thank you both very much. And I'm sure on behalf of all of us, to all our students, we will see you soon. We hope you're doing well. If you need any help, we've had some contact information for you out there. And if you need to write to our centers, we have our email addresses, of course, for some of those type of questions. So thank you on behalf of our student population, and we'll see you all soon.
Thanks.
Bye.